Oh boy, am I so delighted to introduce you to our guest today, Wally Funk. She is known worldwide as being one of the first women chosen as a candidate for astronaut testing for the space program in 1961. She was the first female Federal Aviation Administrator Inspector. She was given the distinction of becoming the first female investigator for the National Transportation Safety Board. In 2000, she trained with the Russian cosmonauts. Wally has been with several projected space programs over the years, but her dream is now coming true. And one day she's going to go up into space with Virgin Galactic in Spaceship Two. She is recognized as an expert on aviation safety. Wally has lectured extensively on the subject, both in the United States and abroad. She has received national and international acclaim for her aviation achievements in newspapers, magazines, radio, and television media. She was featured on Dateline in 1995 regarding her experience as one of the Mercury 13 astronaut candidates. She has 19,836 flight hours. I'm not sure I'm reading that number right, but get that, guys, over nearly 20,000 flight hours, and holds all levels of aviation certification. She's instructed pilots from private to ATP ratings, and she started her career teaching military pilots at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. She now specializes in instructing teenagers, Dharma, this one's for you, who are pursuing a career in military and or commercial aviation. As well as being an aviation celebrity, Wally has a delightful, and I'm talking delightful, magnanimous personality. It is bigger than the sun, and you are sure to come away from this experience with just a great knowledge about aviation and space. Without further ado, everybody give a big, warm, virtual welcome to Wally Funk. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you.
Take it away, Wally.
Well, I am so absolutely astounded to be here with you all and see every one of you. And then I want to say also, I have instructed in many, many countries, and that was fabulous for me to see that you all are here. Now, I want to say that I was born and raised in Taos, New Mexico, which is at 7,000 feet. And my first encountering with an airplane was my parents took me to an airport somewhere in New Mexico. And I saw a DC-3 sitting over there, and I went right over there and I tried to turn the nut on that wheel to see if I could make it move. So that was my first experience with aviation. Mother said, oh, she's going to fly. So I made model airplanes as a kid. Well, all of you guys, are you making model airplanes and hanging them up from your ceiling? You should. Balsa wood airplanes. They're great. You don't fly them, you just look at them. And then at 9 or 10, I got my first lesson in flying, and I loved it. I learned how to do everything with my hands and my feet. And right now I'm teaching an 8-year-old, and she is so wonderful. She really wants to fly and go to the airlines at 8. So you all that I'm looking at you and you're listening to me, you can do it if you want to do it. Now, then my other thing I did when I was, I don't know, 10 or so, I got my Superman cape on and I jumped off the barn, but I put some hay down that wouldn't hurt myself. And of course, when I jumped off, nothing happened. So I got down on the ground. I said, what's wrong with this? So I put more hay down. I jumped off again, and oh, I didn't fly. And then I thought, I don't have a propeller on my nose. So I figured that was not right. And then I kept making all my airplanes. I probably made thousands and thousands of airplanes. So I started off my career at Taos And then you all don't know, but there's a special mountain in Taos, New Mexico. It's about 14,000 feet high. And it is the spirit of the Taos Mountain. And Mother always said, you look at the Taos Mountain and that mountain will tell you what to do today. And folks, I want to tell you, that is the thing that keeps me going today. So I owe a lot of success and the guidance and the love that my parents gave me as a little girl and a career in life. So I hope you have great parents that help you do things. Now, I've worked on airplanes, I've worked on cars, I've built things out of wood. I was an outdoors person. I didn't care about being in the house. Mother said, do you want to learn how to cook? And I said, no. Do you want to go learn how to get groceries? I said, no, I want to be outside. I built tree houses. I've built several homes. And I was just an outside person, and I still am, and I love it. Even though we're in lockdown here, I still go to the airport, and I have been still flying. So,
hey, can you show everybody the picture of you, like when you were a little girl turning that bolt on the plane? Can you hold up that picture?
There it is, 2 years old, and I'm trying to turn that nut.
Amazing.
Thank you. And then at 14, I was in the shooting club. And at 14, my grandfather gave me a 22. And I am here with my 22. And as I went through the year, and here are my pistols. Then I received, and I got all of my sharpshooter. Does anybody shoot in the audience? Okay, I got my sharpshooter badges, and then the top position that you could ever have is your Distinguished Rifleman Award. And this is the Distinguished Rifleman Award. And my instructor was so impressed that a 14-year-old could do that. He sent the bullseye and a picture of me, and I got a letter from President Eisenhower saying, you're the first girl that has achieved this. And I, wow, that was incredible. So I've had a great gift of youngsterhood. And my parents always thought, oh, just be kind, be who you are, be safe, be knowledgeable, cherish, and speak always correctly. And then one thing, Mother always made me dress correctly. I could have my Levi's and t-shirt on during the day, but at night I had to have my dress on for dinner. So that was one thing that she increased, wanted me to do. And Mother was my first, when I got my license at Stevens College, I went to Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri. And Dr. Bates, who was my advisor, called Mother and said, your daughter's not doing too well. And Mother said, do you have an airport out there? And he said, yes, you get her out there. And then that's when I really started flying, and I got my private license at, I don't know, by 15 or 16, and became a 99. So I've been a 99 for, how long is that? 60 years? Yes. Anyway, so I was just so lucky to be born with ability and a good attitude and good want to do great things for life. And if I could just hug each one of you, I would love to do that, because I've been in your state or your country. I had no fears, none at all. When I'd go out there and in the water and doing the irrigation and going fishing and going skiing or whatever, and if there was some kind of an animal around, a snake or whatever, I'd pick it up, put it over where he needed to be. I have always been with animals. When I was in South Africa, I rode every animal there was to ride, even an alligator. It was fabulous. And I don't have any fears at all. So if you can do that, you can understand what it is. I want you to know that I'm impulsive, I'm spontaneous, I'm practical, I'm bold. I'm very responsible, never had any accents of any type. and I never stopped. I marched to my drummer, and you can call me just the kid next door. Now, astronaut training. Jerry Cobb called me up when I was at Fort Sill and said, "Wally, would you like to be an astronaut?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you got to call Dr. Lovelace in Albuquerque." I did. And so I called him, and Dr. Lovelace said, "Well, I want you to be here in a couple of weeks on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Well, I had to pack everything up at Fort Sill, go to Taos. My parents drove me from Taos to Albuquerque because I didn't realize at that time I was too young. I was just barely 20, and they wanted people that were much older in the astronaut program. So he said, "Okay, your parents will sign you in and you can take some of the tests." So phase one was of the Mercury tests were very interesting, a week of tests. The first thing they did is to put a harness around me and put me in a chair and inject 10-degree water in my ear for about 6, 7, 8 seconds.
Oh,
Well, I was always told never to speak out loud incorrectly. So I said, "Oh, interesting." And so then obviously I passed. So they took me out, put me in another room for an hour, brought me back, and then they did the other ear. Well, I knew it was going to hurt a little bit, but my right ear is more sensitive because flying, I always had that engine on the right side if it was in a multi-engine aircraft. So anyway, I was so lucky to have passed number one test. Then they would put tubes down me, tubes up me, check my pressures, everything there was to check in a body, they could. There were 25 girls selected and only 13 passed. Well, there were 105 guys selected, and who did we have? The Mercury 7. So I felt very lucky to be the person I am, that I could pass those tests. And you see that bi-wing airplane on the picture behind me rather. The first airplane that I owned was a Stearman, and it was fabulous. 4 wings. I probably have 2,000 hours in that Stearman, and I taught people how to do acrobatics. It absolutely is great. And right now, the man that owns it up in Seattle sent me a picture, and there is this picture of the Stearman and a rib that came out of 200 ribs in that air, those 4 wings. And he sent me a rib to show me how since 1940 till now it was not doing too well. But anyway, back and then also in my youth, somehow I was on the Mike Douglas show in 1975, and Mother got me all dressed up, and those were Indian type of dresses with the jewelry. And I was flown then to the East Coast and was on the Mike Douglas show for an hour. That was never done, having a girl come and do those things. So I was pretty lucky. And I want to also say that the girls that took the test, we were never together. I only knew Jerry from flying in Oklahoma. So I didn't know any of the rest of the Mercury 13. There's only 2 of us left, but I'm the only one that's been flying for years and years. So I'm still flying. I love it, and I'll take it.
hey, here's a question. Here's a question, Wally. What was there a test that was toughest? But I also want to tell them you set the record for one big isolation test. So tell them about that.
Okay, yeah, I was going to get to that.
Sure.
I just want people to know that none of us were ever together, and they took us as I don't know. I was number 2 to go in. Jerry was number 1, and I was number 2. So they did everything. Now, the test that you're talking about is the isolation test, but there were other tests that they gave me before that They sent me to Los Alamos and they wanted to know about all the radiation that was in my body, which I thought was rather interesting. They poked me, they did everything into my body. They knew everything head to toe. And then the psychologist came in and wanted to do a number on my head. And they were asking me all the psychology questions. And one of the last things was that, who wrote Verdi? I said, Nabucco. Who wrote Nabucco? I said, Verdi. Oh, they all went up like, how did you know that? I said, because I grew up with opera. Then they sent me off. They didn't. Then the phase 1 of that test canceled. And so I had places where I could go in the United States and Europe and Russia so that I could go take more tests because I was not going to give up. So one of the other tests that I took was a psychological test, and that was the isolation water test. And there was a big room with a great big water in a pool. And they said, now bring your swimming suit. You're going to be in this pool. And we want you to do your best. I said, well, I'll do fine. So I got into the pool and he gave me 2 pieces of, a small book, that Java book. He gave me 2 pieces of foam rubber. They were about half the size of this book. Foam rubber. I did not have a suit on to keep me afloat. And I had to struggle to lay down and put that foam behind my back and behind my neck and stay steady. Now you guys might want to try that because it was kind of interesting. So I got myself in position. I was steady on the water with the 2 pieces of foam rubber back and back. And then he said, okay, I want you to spread eagle. So I was spread eagle, my legs and my arms were out. And then I kind of realized, I kind of touched the water. I couldn't feel it. I licked it. I couldn't touch it. I slapped my face with it. I couldn't feel it. Guess what they had done? They had taken my temperature so many times. They knew what it was, 97 or 8. The water, the humidity, everything in that room was my same temperature, and I couldn't feel or test anything. Now, there was no lights. There was a microphone in the center, and he said, I want you to stay there as long as you can. And I said, well, I will do that. And it's so funny because I wanted to be back in my Stearman in a way, but anyway, I wanted to show them that I could do this test because I can do anything. I never failed. So I was in this water, couldn't taste anything, couldn't touch anything. So you know what? I was in space because I didn't try to turn, but I could figure my fingers and my toes, I could wiggle them. I couldn't feel anything. So I put my mind that I was up in space and that was what it was going to be like. And that's what they were going to be testing me doing. Okay. So I went a long time. And finally something came over, a voice came overhead. They said, Wally, how you doing? I said, well, just perfect. Great. He said, well, we're going to turn the mic back off. And so keep doing as well as you're doing. I said, all right, I will. So more time went on. I had to put my mind, as I normally do before I go to bed at night, I put my mind in space. That way I can go to sleep very quickly and I have no problems going to sleep or thinking about things that I should have done or shouldn't have done. It is like nice and level and quiet. You might all want to try that. Put your mind somewhere else. So I did that, and pretty soon I heard another voice come on, and he said, Wally, how you doing? I said, I'm doing perfect. He said, well, we are going to turn the lights on now and want you to take it easy. and come to the edge of the pool and put the towel around you and come on out. Now, I didn't tell you this when I first went in the door to the pool. I saw a clock and it was at 8 something, 8:30. So when I got out, my first thought was, oh, I want to look at that clock as soon as I walk out that door. So I got the towel around me and I got out the door. I turned around. Oh, they were so clever. They covered up the clock. So I had no idea how long I had been in. So they wanted to interrogate me. Did my mind change? Did things change at all while I was in the water? No, I was the same person. I thought the same. And finally, they told me, Wally, you had stayed in 10 hours and 35 minutes. I was amazed. I didn't, 10 hours didn't feel like that at all. But I was so settled in my own mind and body, I could do this very easily. So that was phase 2. So phase 3 was going up in a high altitude, and at 40,000 feet, they let it drop, the airplane dropped, and they wanted to see what I was going to do. Well, I just eventually hit the floor, and I knew what was going to happen, so I cushioned myself. Then there were a lot of G's. I did, they said most people do 4 G's. I did 5.5. Because you see, in the Stearman, I was teaching acrobatics. And so when you were doing turns or doing loops or rolls, you have to pull G's. So I was used to pulling 5 G's. So anyway, I thought, okay, I've passed all these phases. It turned out to be 3 phases of astronaut testing. And so then I had known Eileen Collins and all the rest of the girls that had gone up. And they said, Wally, you've got to get on with NASA. I said, yes, I want to. I applied several times and they said, Wally, we want you, but you do not have an engineering degree. Okay, I'll go get one. At the time I was living in Ohio. So I went to Ohio to the college there, and I went into the man that runs the school, and I said, I need an engineering degree so I can get into NASA. He said, you're a girl, you go to home ec. In the 60s, that's the way girls were treated. You all, you know that now.
Wow.
Anyway, I didn't get it. And NASA said, well, we're sorry, we can't do anything for you. So then I went on and I got programmed to go with other people up in California that are going to be building vehicles and going into space. So I did that, and Virgin Galactic came along and they interviewed me, and I gave them the money that they wanted, which was quite a bit. And I'm still on their list. And that was in 2010. So I've done a lot of air racing, putting a lot of people through. With that many hours, I have probably put through 3,000 people. And here's the house that I've done building. And this is the house that I built in Taos, New Mexico. And there is the Taos Mountain behind there with the snow that gave me the knowledge of what to do. That spirit is great. Now, also in California, I bought the Queen Mom's Rolls Royce. I was into showing cars. I had a Bentley. It didn't do too well. So then somebody said, well, go up to Pasadena and buy the Queen Mom's Rolls Royce. It was a 42. It was in pristine condition. And I would go underneath and check for any oil leaks, and the radiator would open and close as it needed air. So I thought that was pretty neat. So the interior was fantastic. And unfortunately, I'm so sorry I sold the Stearman and the Rolls, because in the Rolls Royce, I got the decanter and the 3 pouring glasses that the Queen of today used in those days. And then I have a picture of when I was at Fort Sill and when I was not flying jets, but this happened to be a picture that some press wanted. So I was flying airplanes for the Army at Fort Sill. And then also when I was overseas, somebody was so nice and that upside down, yeah. I started out in America and flew over to Belgium, got my Volkswagen camper, and I want to make sure you see are seeing it right. So I did here and all over Europe and all over Africa in my Volkswagen camper and never had a problem in 3 years. Mother had sewn $1,000 bill in my underwear in case I ever needed money for anything. So I was okay. I stayed with friends of my parents. And then, of course, at that point, I really missed my Stearman. So this is a little different color than what my Stearman was. But wherever I was in Europe, I would ask people, do you have a Stearman? I'd like to fly it. And that worked. Also, when I was very young, I ran tractors and I still do. I was on this tractor 2 weeks ago, cutting hay for a friend of mine that has 8 acres. And I love tractors. I love machinery. I love cars. I love airplanes. I can work on them. And then this is a picture of, let's see, White Knight 2 is that little guy there. It's in between the other two cockpits. And that is what I'm going to go up in with Sir Richard Branson if he gets things to do. Now, I'm flying, I'm doing air races, I'm doing things that most girls would not do in an airplane. It made me more skilled and competent and professional to know that I could do anything anybody wanted to do. And you know what? Mother was so cute. She wanted to do these things herself, but her father wouldn't let her. So she let me do anything I wanted to do. Mother always said, don't go faster than your angel can fly. So take that down. Don't go faster than your angel can fly. So there are 2 things you never get to do twice. You guys, listen to this. 2 things you never get to do twice. You never get to make more than that one first impression. So however you're dressed, however you talk, your attitude, how you are with people, that is that first impression that may or may not get you that job. So watch that first impression. And then you never get to fly that jet more than that one first time. That first time is so fantastic, and I have flown a couple of jets. I just want to thank you for letting me be with you. I cannot tell you enough about how great my parents were to me. And I had some more notes, but they didn't get out. I guess now what I've done is Netflix sent me this picture. And I have it hanging up in my apartment. It shows the outline of all the 13 girls, and I don't know which one I am. So that is, I've been on a lot of movies. I've done a lot of TV things, and this was given to me for a speech that I made in Allen, Texas. People love to have that astronaut look. And this is when I was flying for an airline, Sierra Pacific in Arizona. It didn't last very long, but I had a good time. And then this has just come up. Well, actually, the quilt was made, this quilt on me was made in 2016. And then I just found out recently that it was all over the United States in whatever they call quilt advisors. And now it is hanging in the Library of Congress this year. So anybody that ever goes to the Library of Congress, you might see that. And then I'm going to say, okay, this is truly me trying to get into space. And that's the last picture I have, except for the ones that you might see on the film. Now I've taken as many astronaut tests as the guys or more. So it was my youth that did it. So you kids that are young, you can do it if you have the want and the will to want to do it, and do what and do the fun stuff. I know right now it's hard for us to get around, but when we can, get out there and take a flight. They're a little expensive. Ask your parents if you can do it, and I highly suggest it because it's a part of your life that you would never know. I never knew that it could be so perfect. And I love it. So do you want to run that, or do you want questions first?
I tell you what, let's show that video. Wade's going to share his screen and bring that up for us. I will tell you, while he is making that transition, that several kids in the chat have decided, one person thought she's a modern day Captain Marvel. And then somebody said, no, she's Captain Mercury. So, so kudos to Jesse and Ashley and Amia. I think that you have inspired about 10 kids over here to go out and become pilots and astronauts. One said she wants to become part of the 99s. So Wade, if you'll go ahead and share that screen, and we'll show that movie now. All right, everybody watch this. This is stupendous. Here we go.
Pays $20,000 to be kicked around on vacation. She does. Up next. If first impressions count for anything, then you can tell right from the start. Wally Funk is not your run-of-the-mill Texan. This petite part-time aviator isn't afraid to push the envelope when it comes to her vacation. In fact, she's not afraid of anything.
I've never been frightened. I've never been scared. Somebody can go around the corner and say, boo, yeah, you're gonna jump. But I've never had a fear. Fear was not part of our family.
And to prove it, Wally's about to put her money where her mouth is. A lot of money. $20,000 for a trip, not to Paris or London or even Monte Carlo. She's T-minus 12 hours of air travel from a vacation that's more than outrageous. It's the dream of a lifetime. And it begins here, at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center, 20 miles northeast of Moscow. Now, you're probably thinking anyone who spends 20 grand for a vacation like this must be some kind of space cadet. And you're absolutely right. Believe it or not, 40 years ago, Wally was one of 13 women being tested by NASA for the Mercury space program.
I wanted to give myself the chance to get into space as a 21-year-old. So pain did not matter to me.
In training, she competed toe-to-toe against such historic figures as John Glenn.
You have electrodes stuck all in your body and your head and legs and arms, and they're the type with the needles, not the type of today. So it didn't feel real great either.
Clearly, Wally had the right stuff. So what kept her from lifting off? It was politics, not pilot error.
We didn't find out until 1999 that Eisenhower had, in fact, had put into a record of some sort that it should be military men picked. So a lot of the Mercury 13 girls were pretty upset about it, but I knew I had to go on. I knew I would go into space one day.
Now, 40 years later, Wally's dream is coming true, and an old wrong is about to be set right. even though she has to fly to Russia to do it. The Cosmonaut Training Camp is located in Star City, longtime headquarters for the Soviet space program. Back in the Cold War days, you couldn't get into this airtight outpost for all the money in the world.
This training is fantastic.
But anyone with the cash and good health can be a Star Trooper trainee. Like her, Wally's classmates are adventurous civilians. 6 from the U.S., 1 from England.
Hey, you like that, huh, kid?
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Day 1 is more about hitting the books than hitting the thrusters.
The second type is regenerative system.
After all, zero gravity isn't something you just jump into. Following a crash course in physics, it's on to the centrifuge, or as some call it, the vomit comet. Not the vehicle of choice for most vacation travelers. This mechanical monster is a real stomach turner. It simulates the suffocating G-forces that cosmonauts feel when they leave the Earth's atmosphere.
I don't know what to expect.
Soon our woman of steel is strapped into the centrifuge. There's no going back now. Any last words?
I just hope I don't swallow my tongue.
Speaking of tongues, keep in mind that all of the controls are in Russian. One wrong button, and it's Das Vidanya Wally. Supervisors keep a really close eye on her to make sure she doesn't black out from the intense G-forces.
Now all the team is here in the monitoring room.
Okay.
Typically, cosmonauts experience between 3 and 6 Gs. But let's not forget, Wally Funk is on vacation, so she goes all the way, or at least tries to.
They're getting ready to come and get you now.
Okay.
Hatch is opening.
Hi, guys.
How do you feel?
It was fantastic. I want to go more.
Having blasted off successfully, the next day Wally moves on to stage 2, docking this Soyuz capsule onto the Mir space station.
So, Wally, how do you feel?
Great. I'm ready to go.
The accommodations won't be mistaken for a luxury hotel room. In fact, a claustrophobic compartment like this would make most folks panic.
We are ready to go.
They're a mock space shuttle. And now, with all that training under her belt, Wally is ready to experience a thrill she's been waiting for most of her life.
And Valentina was the last one. Do we do the parabolic if it's IFR outside?
At nearby Kalovsky Airfield, Wally and her comrades board a specially equipped Ilyushin 76 cargo plane. It may lack a few amenities, but a ride on the Il-76 always has its passengers floating on air. The plane conducts a series of 10 parabolic arcs. The pilot jets to 35,000 feet, nosedives until he hits 10,000 feet, and then it's right back up to 35,000. Parabolic flying has its ups and downs, but Wally's not complaining about a little air turbulence. After all, how often does one lose weight on their vacation? Unfortunately, those pounds don't stay off for long. All too soon, it's time for re-entry.
Hey!
Having completed her training with flying colors, Cosmonaut Wally is already planning her next mission.
What I want to do next is my big trip, and that's go into space and orbit in 2003.
Determined to go where few women have gone before, Wally Funk is one person who really believes in following her dreams. The Gagarin training camp may be just one small step, but as she knows better than anyone, there's a whole universe out there.
Wow, wow, and wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. So here's how we're going to do this, guys. I know that you have a lot of questions here. One of the things you've already answered, but one thing that's come up consistently is, did you ever work for NASA?
No, I never was able to. I did a lot of things with them, but not to be paid for them. with them. But I wanted to go back a little bit. And when I was in Russia, I went back several times, and I got to meet Valentina Tereshkova, who was the first woman to go up, and she was absolutely fabulous woman. And I just wanted to say that, since nobody knows really who she is anymore.
And that is a great thing, guys. We want to give voice to women in science. We want to make known. I'm getting teary-eyed, Wally, just because I go, you have been so inspiring already. I can barely, my heart is full to bursting. You're just making me smile this morning. But Valentina Tereshkova, I would guess you guys would have a lot in common, because she was also an aviatrix, right?
Yes. And then, of course, we have so many other women, but they're not really talked about as much as they used to be. And the girls that want to do things now, they've got to go out and they want to do it, because that's what I did. That's what that spirit did for me. But they can do it. They can have their own spirit wherever they want it to be. And I want to invite every person, girl and boy, to do things that are kind of abnormal. Working on cars, building homes, working on airplanes, going out and looking at airplanes, going up for a ride. Get away from the house stuff. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, hey, I want to open it up. You've got fans aplenty. So guys, I'm going to put this on gallery view. Raise your hand if you have a question. I will come to you and I will most likely repeat it. But does anybody through here, by raising your hand, have a question for Wally this morning? Let me see here. Coming over here. All right. So here's one that has been typed into this view. Is how did you become, we know that you were the inspector for the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. How was it that you came to be the first female inspector?
Well, that's a good question. I knew Mr. Glenn because I worked at Santa Monica Airport, and I wanted to go up to Alaska and be a flight instructor. So I thought I would like to have a letter from him introducing me to the people in Alaska to be a acrobatic pilot and an instructor. So he turned around and he said, I want you here on Monday, dressed. I said, yes, sir. I was in his office on Monday. He gave me a 2-hour interview. And at the end of the interview, he said, Wally, we want you to be our first girl FAA inspector. You have everything that we need as an inspector, because most of all of our men are retired military. We need somebody that is in the loop now. And that's how I got on with FAA and was with them for 4 years. And then NTSB liked my get up and go. And I went out and I did accident investigations. I think I did 450 of those around the United States and Hawaii. And I loved my job. It was great.
Oh, so good. There's another question coming and saying, how did you build your own house?
Oh, that was easy. I bought the land in Taos, and I wanted to be able to do it with adobe bricks. So I had to have somebody bring loads and loads and loads of adobe bricks. My first little house was small, 1 story, probably about 800 square feet. And it had a bedroom and kitchen and bathroom storage. And so it took a year or so to build that, but I knew how to put, when you're in Taos, you learn how to build, because that's what people are doing there. And so I put all my adobes online, and of course you have helpers, and then getting the roof on. Oh, and then putting the vigas across. The vigas are round poles that you put across to hold the roof up. And then you put the plaster the ceiling in, and then the roof on, and then that is your house. Then I went on years later and built it into a 2-story house, excuse me, and then part of and my place to put the airplane hangar. So It was great. I loved my house, and I'm so sorry I had to sell it, but people wanted me to go all over the United States and teach, and that's what I've been doing, is teaching most of my life.
So beautiful. We've got a question this is from Ander. So Ander, scoot back and speak up loudly.
Hello. So what were your thoughts when you went through the vomit comet?
Yeah, what were your thoughts when you were feeling all of those G's on that vomit comet?
Oh, well, see, I was able to put my mind where I wanted it to be, and that was in space. So I had control. I've always had control of what my mind was to do and what my feelings were going to feel.
Fantastic. Tapa Swinney has a question. She's calling in all the way from India. So I'm going to let you ask your question, but Tapa Swinney, talk really loudly for me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In your video, you said that you have never been scared. So how were you able to manage such a thing?
Because that's the way I was brought up. And my parents said, you don't have to ever be afraid of anything. Try to understand it, whether it's an animal or a thing or whatever you're doing. Don't say no, just try it and see if it works. And it always did work. And I'm so glad that you're from India. What town are you from?
I'm actually from Madhya Pradesh, but
Okay.
I travel a lot in India.
I taught a girl to fly in Bombay. Her name is Sadamini Deshmukh. She's a retired airline captain. So if you can remember that, Sadamini Deshmukh, look her up.
Sure.
From Bombay. Thank you.
So Yvette, let's let you ask this question. So she's from the 99s. This is Yvette. Well, hold on. She's from Project Possum, which was inspired because of you. So Yvette, talk loudly and ask that question, please, my dear.
Hi, thank you. Wally, thank you so much for your time. There's a group of us, there's a few of us online right now who are from a group called Possum 13. I think you've met one of us, and we were inspired by the Mercury 13. This is an education and outreach effort for young girls and women to join a microgravity campaign every year.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, I had not heard of you.
We are wild fans, and we believe it's so important, the message that young girls, young boys too, get involved together to encourage more women and more girls in STEM. So our question is, what do you think is the most important thing when trying to engage young students today? We have a lot of outreach for STEM, so.
Okay, the most important thing is having that great attitude of I want to do great things. But the main thing is STEM, learning how to be an engineer or learning how things work. See, I always did it with cars and airplanes, but at home, I guess you could do it with any kind of a piece of machinery that you might have at home. How does it work? Why do you have to plug it in to make it work? How does it work inside? Like vacuum cleaner or something. I'm trying to say here, you need to know how things work when you plug them in, or when you have the propeller going, or you have an engine going. Learning how an engine works. STEM. All those things are very important today.
Oh, you guys. Hey, Judah, you have typed this to me several times. I want you to tell Miss Wally personally what you think here. So I'm trying to unmute you, my dear Judah. Can you help me out and help me unmute you there? Oh, Judah, where are you? Yeah, unmute yourself there, buddy, oh pal. Well, if I could unmute him, he wants to tell you that it's like you are so cool with lots of O's in the middle. So, and do we have any other questions? Yes, Tommy Gantz, coming to you and unmuting you.
Hi. I'm a 99 and I saw Wally several times at the Women in Aviation Convention. And I just want to thank you for everything that you've done, not only to inspire little girls, but to inspire big girls like me. You know, I didn't discover my passion until I was older in life. And so it's a little bit of an obstacle, but seeing women out there that are continuing to engage in their passion has made a tremendous impact in my life and has allowed me to engage others and do a lot of STEM outreach myself. So thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and I'll see you wherever we're going to be at WIA the next time. You come up and grab me, okay?
Got it.
All right, we're coming to a sweetheart from New Jersey. Lucia, I see your hand raised. What is your question? What's your question, baby? Your video's breaking up.
What's your favorite thing in space?
Oh, what is your favorite thing either in flight? What's that, baby? So what's your favorite thing in space or in flight?
That's a difficult question.
So is that something, what was your favorite thing about being maybe in an airplane? Your favorite moment? Is it takeoff? Is it going through clouds? Is it landing? What's your favorite thing in flight?
Is that for me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. My favorite thing is doing acrobatics because I love it. It all takes precision, and doing a loop and having the airplane come around just perfectly, or doing a roll, or doing a stall, or taking off and landing. They're all very precise things that you've got to learn to do. Now, my thing is getting into space. I just want to see how everything is arranged in space. And of course, I wanted to go to ISS and be with the engineers and learn everything. But now we have progressed so far, I don't know if I would understand it at this point. That's why you got to grow up with STEM.
Right. Well, we've got Bailey. Where are you, Bailey? I'm unmuting you. Talk loudly. Ask your question, my dear.
I'm so excited right now. So I'm part of the Possum 13 that Yvette also talked about earlier. And I just have to say, so I'm 23 right now, and I know you were 23 when big things happened in your life too. So I'm really excited to talk to you before I turn 24. I'm about to turn 24. So I feel very connected to you right now at the age of 23. My question for you specifically is, you have the most amazing attitude of life in general, of just go for it, don't be scared, always positive. One of my favorite things is that whenever you come out, you're like, okay, let's do it again. I love that. But what I'm really curious about is if you ever had struggles in your life or self-doubt or anything along those lines, that the demons that some of us might be struggling with. You've never had that? You don't have any tips on that?
Never had. No, I always made everything perfect, or just the way it should be. If it was something in a book, I made it just exactly the way it was supposed to be in the book, whoever wrote it. But going out into space, I mean, when I get into my car, I want to make sure everything is just right before I go off. Things have to be perfect for me to go do things.
Fantastic. And again, guys, we can learn a lot from this. It's like sometimes we love to rush. And we have been brought up in a generation that it's like everything is instant. I want you to hear what Miss Wally is really saying. Being perfect also takes a lot of preparation. So you must do the work. And even if it's tiresome work, you must do the work, and you must never tire for doing the work if it is your dream. So make sure that you are really hearing these beautiful, amazing things. I'm coming through again. Hands raised over here. Nick, what is your question, my friend?
What was it like when you were floating in the space shuttle, whatever it was?
Oh, when she was doing the parabolic flight?
Yeah.
How was that in your 0G flight? That's what Nick wants to know.
Well, when you're in that suit and you're going around and around, you're so strapped in, you don't have any feeling except the G's. But when I was in the tank, I could make myself feel I was in space because I had no feeling of the water or the temperature, and I just, that's the way I think. I was in space and I was floating.
All right.
The other thing is when she was, and I'm guessing when you were in the 0G flight, that was about 20 or 22 seconds of microgravity when you're doing those parabolas, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And Nick, I will have to share with you sometime. I got to do a flight very similar to that. And I will tell you, it was the best, like, compared to any roller coaster ride in the whole world. I have, I've jumped out of a plane, I've done that kind of thing, but I will tell you that that feeling of weightlessness is just like the most mind-blowing, freeing, weird thing ever. So it's pretty fantastic. Any
Well, that's
last
great. You know
question?
what? I forgot to mention, yes, I've done quite a few parachute jumps in California, and I just loved it. I've done everything there is to do in aviation and have all the ratings. So I'm still going at it.
Ah, super good. Mia, I see you have a question.
Yeah. How many tests were there?
How many tests did you go through in that 1 week? Because we read that you couldn't, some days you couldn't eat breakfast and then other days you could eat breakfast, but how many tests did you go through that week?
I cannot even begin to tell you, because the doctors and the nurses would come at me and say, we're going to do this and this and this and this. And sometimes I didn't know what they were for, but obviously that's what they wanted, whether they were taking something out of my system, putting something in my system. I have no idea how. I've had thousands of tests.
Wow. All right, Maggie and Evie, I see your hand raised loud and strong. What's your question, girls?
In the documentary, someone fell asleep in the pool. I was wondering, did you fall asleep in the pool? You're muted.
In the documentary, it shows someone in the pool that fell asleep. Did all the ladies fall asleep, or was it just you that fell asleep?
No, I was the only one that ever took that test. Jerry Jacob took it, and she only ended up 9 hours, but she told me she flailed around.
Wow.
I was the only one, and I don't think the guys took that.
Tell everybody how long you were in that tank, just lying very still.
I was spread eagled and very still for 10 hours and 35 minutes.
Wow.
I loved it.
Wow. All right. Hey, Lucas, what's your question?
My question is, have you ever flown around the Jersey Shore?
Have you ever flown around New Jersey Shore?
No, I've commercially, yes, but most of all my flying that I've taught have been from the middle part of the United States west, Florida, Canada, and then everything west, all the countries. I mean, all the states.
I tell you, this has been just an amazing morning. And any last things that you want to share with all of us here in the Zoom room with you and online? Any last things you want to tell us as we close out this great program?
Well, I want you all to know it was wonderful being with each and every one of you. I hope I get to see you again, and I would love to meet you. Be sure you know what you want to do in life and do it perfectly.
Oh, so good. Let me see if there's one last question. They all want you to know their new nickname for you is Captain Wally Mercury. So they're going to call you Captain Mercury from now on.
Thank you. I accept. That's great.
We may have to, you know what, guys? Here is the challenge. If you will draw something or write a letter to Wally about what you heard and what you were inspired by her talk today, and either type that up or send it to me, and I will put it together, a whole big stack, and we will get it to Wally. How about that?
Oh, that's fabulous. Yes, please do. And put a picture of yourself in the letter.
Beautiful. That way she can know about all of the future pilots and astronauts that she inspired today. I only can tell you, my love, I cannot wait to meet you. Mwah. Consider yourself hugged, my sweet. Let your mind revolve around this thought, everybody. The universe is always expanding. Let your mind do the same. And that's the view from Janet's planet. All right, guys, I'm going to unmute you guys, and you're going to say thank you to Miss Wally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Wally.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Be great. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye. You all are great. Oh, Janet, you are fantastic. Do this.
Thank you so much, Wally. We loved having you on with us today. I can't wait to talk with you again. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
You're the silly one.
Bye.
Bye.